What's up, Eagles? So, I'm going to get real with you today and tell you a little bit about my life. Some of you may know that I'm in the final stages of my PhD program. The last thing that I have to do for my PhD is finish my dissertation. This has actually been really hard for me because writing a dissertation is almost entirely self directed, and that takes a lot of time and energy. In this case, having some experience with a project like this has also gotten in my way a little bit. Because I have some experience, I have an expectation for how this should go. When I finished my educational specialist degree 6 years ago, I had to write a thesis, which was a very similar task. I was able to do that a lot more easily, so I have to ask myself, why is writing my dissertation so hard right now? After failing to live up to my own expectations over and over again, I had to step back and take my own advice. When I meet with students, one of the most common conversations I have is about realistic expectations. As I've been writing my dissertation, I've held on to the expectation that I should be able to do this just as easily as writing my thesis. The problem is that when I wrote my thesis, I wasn't working as a full-time school psychologist. In fact, when I wrote most of my thesis, I was a full-time student. When I was working on my thesis, my environment, my life experiences, and the demands on my time were completely different. Sometimes when I talk to students about realistic expectations, I use the analogy of running. If I can barely run a 10-minute mile on a treadmill with no incline, I shouldn't be surprised if running a mile uphill on a road outside would take me a little longer. Sometimes we think because we can do something in one environment, we should be able to do the same thing in all environments. Imagine trying to do that same run uphill on a muddy trail wearing ankle weights and a 50-pound backpack with the rain pouring down and the wind in your face. I know that sounds a little dramatic, but sometimes life really feels that challenging. Under those circumstances, I would consider any forward movement at any pace an accomplishment. Don't get me wrong, it's important to have a target to aim for. Setting and achieving goals is essential to the learning process. But as we set goals, it's important to be realistic about what resources we'll actually need to accomplish our goals. That happens by breaking down our big goals into much smaller goals and celebrating each little win. It's also important to be real with yourself about the environment you're working in. Like me recognizing that writing a thesis as a full-time student is incredibly different than writing a dissertation as a full-time school psychologist. What in your environment is making your normal tasks more challenging? What resources do you need to be successful in that new environment? Often, the resource we need the most is time. As you come to face old problems in a new environment, it will take more time to first understand your new environment and then understand how that environment affects how you work the problem. As I have come to understand and accept my new environment, I've been able to move forward with my dissertation. I would encourage you all to take a moment to identify how your environment has changed and accept how those changes are really impacting the goals you've set and the things you want to accomplish. This does not mean that you have to change your end goal. What it does mean is that you may have to change the way and the timing of how you get there. Remember that on some days, in some circumstances, even an inch of forward motion is an accomplishment. Celebrate your accomplishments. I am so proud of all of you. I know this hasn't been easy, but inch by inch, we are making progress. So be good, be safe, be eagles, and rise.